1977 championship team. It was the first state championship in basketball for the Carmel Greyhounds, and they won it on a rather thrilling, exciting way. They won it with an alley-oop pass to Jon Ogle. That went in, and they won the game by just 1 point, beating a very talented East Chicago team. And we are going to have Paul Hensel, Jon Ogle, the guy who hit the shot, and Brian Greene calling in just a little bit to talk about that 77 game. But also, there's a lot of similarities between the 77 team and this Carmel team.
I mean, I remember going to that 1977 matchup.
Okay, Jack, thank you. You're 17. Thank you, Jack.
I'm 16, actually, so... But anyways, I think it's interesting to look back on. This is Carmel's now potentially fourth state championship victory, and how far the program has developed since then, at least, I think. And now that they're one of the giants in Indiana State basketball, and then they were kind of still developing. And I think that it's been a remarkable development from this Greyhounds team. I think it's really kind of summarized by that.
I think something also that's important to think about is Carmel basketball won a state championship 2 years before the Carmel football team won. I think that first championship, if I'm correct, coming in 79 for the football team. So this 77 championship that we're talking about was the first major accomplishment for the city of Carmel and the Carmel High School.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It was a huge championship. And keep in mind, that's back when it was just single A. There wasn't 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. There was one class, and it was really hard to win all those at the same time. So we are waiting on the 77 team to call in. We are understanding they're trying to call in right now. And we are going to wait for them, and we are going to get ready to put them on air hopefully rather soon. But while we're waiting, let's go ahead and keep it here, and let's continue to talk about the similarities between these two teams. 1977, that team had 7 losses. This 2018 team, 7 losses. 77, they felt like that team really never met their expectations at any of the seasons as they were leading into that year of 77. But that changed when they won the state championship. This Carmel team 2018, I think you see a lot of the same patterns, Jack.
I mean, I feel like Carmel will feel they could have had a much better record than 7 losses on this year. They've had a lot of close games. I mean, namely the Warren game. I mean, the two teams that are playing tonight. Carmel had a 4-point lead with minutes to go and lost that on a last-second shot. And so there were several occasions like that across the season. And I feel like they did let themselves a little bit. That is a positive for them because that means that the record of 21-7 is a bit deceiving. It means that this will have a lot of potential to grow, and they're definitely going to be a competitive game tonight. It was 1 point earlier on in the season, and that was a very different Carmel team back then. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see tonight.
It should be a lot of fun. But, hey, while we're waiting on that 77 team, we were able to sit down with Eddie Gill, shooting guard on the Carmel team earlier this week, and talk to him about his impact in his senior year. Let's take a listen. All right, now joining me in the WHJE Sports booth, shooting guard Eddie Gill now with me. Eddie, being a senior on this team, really quick, tell me what it means to be in this state title game, your final game as a Greyhound, and this is as far as you could take them.
I think that building up to the state game, getting here, just sticking together, the team. I'm really proud of everybody and all the adversity we've gone through, being hurt, injuries. Karsten came in. That was different for everybody. I'm just really proud of everyone and how hard they've worked to get here at this point.
Let's talk about your impact you've had in this playoff run. I mean, your impact has been huge. You on the defensive side of things, you always give in that effort. Talk about that heart you play with out on that floor. Where do you get that from, and kind of what do you see your role as on this Greyhound team?
I think that my role personally is just doing whatever it takes to get the win, and then as far as like how I play on the defensive end, there's just a fire that burns within me to lock down the other team's best offensive player and shut them down, and give us whatever we can offensively.
Talk to me. I want to take you back. You know, a big moment in this playoffs was the sectional championship versus Fishers. You guys were up by 10, then back down by 4. That was the kind of story of the game. And it was one of those runs with a minute to go. I believe there's like 29 seconds on the clock, actually. And you go up after a Lucchetti missed layup, and you put it back, and you dunk it home. And one of the most, sky-high dunks I've ever seen out of you, but really out of any basketball player. Tell me, what was going through your mind on that play? How are you able to jump that high?
To be honest with you, there wasn't really much going through my mind. It was just kind of in the heat of the moment. I was following him down the court, and when I saw it come off the rim, I just went up and went to go get it. So
It just kind of fell towards you, and
yeah, I mean, I saw it, and then when I jumped, I didn't know where exactly it was, and I had to kind of reach my right a little bit. But once I grabbed it, I knew it was going in.
let's talk about practice this week. Obviously, Coach Osborne in his first season, he's done a fantastic job. Practice this week, has it been different? Has it been the same? Is it just going through the motions for you guys? What's the mood like in the locker room?
So everyone's been excited this week. It's another week of practice. We need to have a good week. I think that as a team, each day this week we have today off, but every other day than this, we're just trying to get better, stay focused, and get ready for Saturday.
So when you look at this Warren Central team, they don't really have a dominant score, which every team you pretty much played up to this point in this state tournament has had that.
Mm-hmm.
Warren runs a very balanced offense with David Bell and Dean Tate, all those guys averaging about 10 to 12 points a game. When you look at that, as a defensive player as you are, what's your mindset going into this game? Who are you looking to stop?
So team defensively, we're just gonna have to keep everyone out of the lane, and just stick together more than anything. Everyone can score on that team. Everyone does score on that team, so it's not really gonna be about one person shutting one guy down. It's gonna have to be more of a team defensive mindset and just locking everyone down.
So we got here early.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And now joining us, the three members of the 1977 team, Paul Hensel, Jon Ogle, Brian Greene. Guys, thanks so much for coming on. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you guys on. It's actually an honor to have you guys on. You guys are like royalty at Carmel. You won the first basketball state championship. Tell me about that game. Of course, it was back in the good old single A days. Tell me about what it was like to compete at that level and win that state championship.
We'll let Jon Ogle talk about that. Yeah, well, back then, obviously, things were a little different without class basketball, and it just was the whole focal point of the entire state. So to be in a state championship game was obviously quite a thrill for all of us, and something that all of us as kids growing up and playing basketball, even just in our backyards, we always talked about going to the state final. So it was an unbelievable event for us in our lives, and still is today. It still has a lot of meaning.
Now, Jon, you were actually the one who hit the layup shot. We actually tweeted a video of it earlier this week so our fans could remember it. You hit the shot to put Carmel above that East Chicago team. Tell me, if you can remember, what was going through your mind at that moment? What was, like, you just hit the shot to win it all. What was kind of going through your thought?
Yeah, Brian Greene's here. If you look at that video, you can see who's right across the other side of the rim. In case I didn't hit it, there was somebody right there to put it back. But I always have to say that, if you watch that whole clip from the start, from that jump ball, you watch what Bart Pearl does. He's the guy that made that whole thing happen. He intercepted the tip, took it down the floor, made an unbelievable pass. All I had to do was just catch it and throw it in. So I had the easiest job. And fortunately for me, I wasn't thinking of anything other than just grab the ball and throw it in. So, it was one of those kinds of plays where, you have to kind of go back and look at it after the fact to really remember what happened. And it just, was one of those things that just worked out obviously quite well for us. But we had the bases covered that day. There was another guy on the other side ready to put it in case I missed it.
All right, so now I'm Jack Edwards asking a question here. What was Eric Clark like as your head coach?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, but I'll answer it for you in the best way that I can. Eric was unlike any coach I've ever had. I would have to say that we were part of the Clark family through everything. The door was always open if we wanted to go over to their house, and it didn't matter. He listened to what you said, but at the same time, when he shook your hand, you knew that he was in charge, and he was going to make that very clear. But a great person to play for, and it was one of those things that when he retired after we won that particular game, the next year just wasn't the same without having him there. So he was a terrific individual, and always has been.
Hi, guys. Sam Wexler here. I had a question. Does class basketball championships, do they mean less now that there are 4 different groups of teams? And do you think the old championships, the old way they did it mean more?
Well, that's a pretty tricky question because, it's a great thing for all these teams to get a chance to win a state championship. But back when we played, for what it's worth, we had to play against the whole state to win it all, and so that meant a lot to us. But I think it means a lot to everybody who gets a chance to win one today. Yeah, I would agree with that.
This next question is for Brian Greene. Greene, you were the sixth man on this team. Tell me about your role. What was that like, getting to be a sixth man who has kind of played both roles? Got to be a star in some games, but also got to be coming off the bench in some games. What did it mean for you to have that role on a team that did so well?
Well, the first order of business was I'm sitting with the two guys that I got to go in for when they got in foul trouble. So, and we've kept that relationship for years. It was tremendous for me, and I think that it came from I moved to Carmel in 1975. Came into an environment where these guys had all been together for years. They grew up together from first grade on up. So an individual like myself who came in and hadn't played a lot, but got to mix it up with a bunch of people that had played together. It was really a good time for myself, and I was very fortunate. My role was to do whatever the team needed. I mean, if it was to play for Paul, then I was playing for Paul. If it was to play for John, I was playing in John's role. I mean, it didn't matter. I just had to go in and contribute, because that's what I was supposed to do. But it was memorable.
Now, Paul, this next question is for you. You have a huge role with the Pups organization, and a lot of this Carmel team, I believe almost all the players grew up playing for Pups and eventually playing for you, I bet, at one stage of that career. Tell me about what it's like watching these guys play from when they are sixth graders to now where they're playing on the biggest stage the state has to offer.
It's an honor to be a part of that program. You know, I didn't get to coach any of the kids that are playing this year because I coached the grade that's like the sophomore class now. But I did get to coach the class in 2013 with Crawley and those. And I mean, you're just proud as hell to say that you actually got to coach those kids. You have a relationship with them, and they still come around and see me and talk to me. And it's always a great thing to be part of, which is, you know, the Pups organization in basketball is probably one of the finest in the state. And we had great involvement from Coach Osborne. That makes it really a good program. And to see these kids, like I said, I've evaluated them and stuff. It's been a great honor to know them and watch them play.
So now this question would be for all three of you guys. What would you say that your favorite memory is from your time at Carmel High School?
Favorite memory?
Oh, favorite memory? Well, obviously, we're sitting here together right now. So, you know, that whole state championship run, you know, was quite, a memorable experience, not just the state championship game, but we had so many things that happened afterwards. Probably for me, the night after the game, we all came back to the high school gym, and the gym was full of people, and we didn't expect that. It was floor to ceiling, people sitting on the floors, sitting on the backboards, you know, so the whole community was there waiting for us to come home. And for me, that was probably one of the greatest experiences, is just walking into that gym and seeing everybody there.
I would agree that was a big one. For me, and I'll never forget this, was after we were finished, a couple of weeks afterwards, we got to go to the Capitol building, to the State House. And we're sitting in the governor's office. You know, he's giving us this paper, you know, thing from the state of Indiana. And he asked me if I had any questions. And my question was, do you mind if I sit in your chair? So I sat in the governor's seat with the beautiful on his desk. One of those funny moments.
There you go.
I'd have to say mine was after we won the state championship when we got home. Like John said, seeing all the people in the gym. I mean, there was like 7,000 people in the gym that night, and it was just a great, great feeling to see the support and stuff. And then we all got to get up and get a little speech and stuff, and it was just a great time, great era for us all. And then the last thing is, you know, the friendships I got with my teammates we still run around together and see each other.
Well, you guys still are awfully close, which brings me to my last question. I know you guys bond over a lot of Carmel basketball, and you've seen a lot of it this season. Tell me, when you see these teams go head-to-head tonight, what do you think Carmel needs to do to get the experience that you guys did and walk away with Carmel's fourth all-time state championship in basketball?
I was, Carmel, we watched them up there at the semi-state, and I tell you, they looked really tough. Their defense was just outstanding. They shut down South Bend Riley. So I'm expecting another really tough defensive stand from those guys. And key to always games are two things for me: is stay out of foul trouble and hit your free throws.
Yeah, as I watch it, it's going to be tempo. We got to control the tempo tonight because, Warren's going to try to turn up the tempo and press us and stuff. So we control the tempo, keep people out of foul trouble, and hit the easy shots and hit the free throws. That'll be the difference.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. It's a true honor to get to talk to you guys. I know you guys are coming tonight. Enjoy the basketball game. It should be one for the ages. And thanks for coming on The Edge today.
Go Hounds.
Thank you. Go Hounds.
Go Hounds, indeed. Members of the 1977 team joining us there. And guys, I mean, you can tell even in the way they talk about it, they still just absolutely love Carmel basketball.
I mean, and you would want to think that these guys out here are going to have the same experience as them. They're going to want to be saying nearly 30 years after, or 40 years after, they're going to want to be talking about the same experiences they had after winning a state championship. It's a really special moment for them, and it continues to today, I think, if not even stronger than it was then.
Well, we are going to take a quick break.